So we are live on YouTube.
Oh.
Can it see everybody?
Yeah, cool. That was easy. All right, who wants to start?
Go for it.
All right, well, I had Article 1.
You think you can hear us?
I don't know. Should we just try and talk a little loud?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, so
So weird.
I had Article 1, and in summary of the whole thing, it is pretty much going over like the essentials of reading comprehension. And those are just examined throughout the entire article within 10 principles. So principle 1 was base your understanding of comprehension on the social constructivist nature of reading. So to break that down, comprehension is a multifaceted process. So like it has constructive beliefs, influential teachers, active reading, what type of text, and then what type of instruction all play into if a student can understand what they're reading. Meaning is constructed when readers make connections between what they know and what they're reading. And a lot of times students can't make those connections. So it's up to those multifaceted like items to go into that to help them do that. Principle 2, understand students' roles in the reading comprehension process. So good readers use a repertoire of comprehension strategies to facilitate that meaning. It said they use both narrative and expository texts. And if you are good at comprehending, it's often that you can comprehend both of those types of texts.
Right.
Principle 3, be an influential teacher. This one was actually really interesting to read about. The International Reading Association reported that it is the teacher's knowledge that makes a difference in student achievement, which is kind of common sense, but then again, sometimes you don't think about that it's really up to you to get the student to comprehend something.
I know.
Principle 4, motivate and engage students. I took a quote straight from the article. It said, classroom cultures that foster reading motivation are characterized by a teacher who is a reading model, a book-rich classroom environment, opportunities for choice, familiar, how do you say that? You know what I mean. Yeah.
Familiar. What? No.
You guys get it. With all the books in the classroom and literacy-related incentives that reflect the value of reading. I think oftentimes, like, we have rewards in classrooms for doing things, but they're not necessarily like educational rewards. And I think that's what it kind of meant by that. Principle 5 is just teach reading comprehension strategies. We don't have that much time, so I'm not going to go into full detail, but you have previewing, self-questioning, making connections, visualizing, knowing how the words actually work, monitoring, summarizing, and evaluating. Principle 6, foster the development and use of vocabulary. You should ensure that your classroom is full of accountable talk, listening, reading, and writing. Principle 7, provide students with a variety of types and levels of text. Principle 8, encourage students to use multiple modes of representing thinking. So this could be having discussions with other classmates, writing down their thoughts, drawing their thoughts, just to make sure that they are representing their thinking to where it's, I wouldn't say correct, but in a sense, you want to make sure they're on the right track. Principle 9, embed formative assessments in your everyday teaching. And then the 10th one, teach students to comprehend at deeper levels. That was mine.
You want to go or you want me to go?
Yeah, I can do it. So mine, it started with a quote that said, the persistent challenge in using standards as a tool for education reform is that standards themselves do not yield change. So basically, the article is about like, what if the Common Core standards don't go deep enough? They don't take that extra step. And it's also about reading comprehension in that way. So it talked about how standards are looked at as tools that align the curriculum and learning so that everybody's like on the same page with what's going on. But that focus isn't necessarily how you develop a critical reader. So it talked about different ways to become comprehensive. You guys know what I mean. Yeah, there you go. And it really talked about how those are the strategies of reading in that way are key to going hand in hand with the Common Core strategies. And if they don't go deep enough, that's the next step to take, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And it also talked about specific comprehension strategies, which I'm glad you didn't go in depth on because I wrote mine down. They have questions to ask about the text, finding the meaning and importance in the text, making inferences and predictions, synthesizing the text, which is, I summarized that as like structuring or organizing, and then background knowledge about the text, and then visualizing the text. And so those are just different ways that you can, different strategies it says that you can comprehend the reading, which I've thought in my own personal experience with these texts is my favorite is finding the importance in what I'm reading, because all throughout school you always find kids that are like, why are we doing this? Like, when will we need this in the real world? And so I think that a lot of times that is like a question you associate with math, but I think with reading it's like
a good question
literacy,
too.
it's a good question too.
Yeah.
And always finding the purpose behind what you're reading and why you're reading it. And so that's probably my go-to strategy that I can think of. And then when I think of like a connection to what, because I was understanding what the article was about, but I was thinking, okay, like where have I seen this in the past? And I remember my field last spring, I did a lesson where I read the students, it was like one of those jumbo books.
Oh yeah.
And I read the students that book, and I forget even what it was called, but something about a shark. There's like something new that would come next page. So we were always making predictions and inferences on what came next. And the book itself wasn't necessarily like rich content that the students needed to learn. It was just a fun book. But at the same time, we were practicing the inferences
Yeah,
and
it was
predictions.
teaching them those strategies.
That's just how they talk about, like, if you have fifth graders, but they're reading at a second grade level, bring the fifth grade standards down
Right.
to
Yeah.
them at the second grade level. I feel like that's the same way. Like, you can use any, I feel like, level book, but you can make it more.
Yeah.
Like, Dabusky reads read aloud stuff all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we're all still interested in them, but it's just like making it engaging at any age.
Right. So yeah, that's mostly what my article is about, and then connecting the comprehension strategies and stuff, reading comprehension back to standards. So.
Okay, mine was the 6 reasons to use informational text in primary grades. So I'm trying to talk loud so I can make sure she hears me. So the first one was to provide the key to success in later schooling. So, like, our students are going to face content area textbooks as well as informational passages on tests. So just making sure that they're familiar with like reading informational types of texts and be comfortable and confident with them. And then like another quote out of that first part was that students would read to learn and learn to read from early days of school through their careers. And I think that was a really good quote, just like read to learn and learn to read. Number 2 was prepare students to handle real life reading. It was basically saying that like adults read a ton of nonfiction, including informational texts, but we do like rely a lot as adults on web-based materials rather than books now. So just being intentional about teaching students that it's okay to like read and actually use informational text, because I feel like a lot of times now the first thing we do is reach for Google or something, and it's just going to get worse as we are like teaching that kids want to do that, because we're already like that. So imagine the younger grades. So just making sure that they're still engaged with those. Number 3 is appeals to readers' preferences. It's basically like talking about turning your reluctant readers into your enthusiastic readers. So like if they are not liking like nonfiction books, which is very rare, like maybe try informational text. Like almost like it's two different types of brains, but I don't know. And then number 4, addresses students' questions and interests. So regardless of readers' text preferences, it should interest them and their reading should improve. So like we've always talked about, make it engaging if you have to, like find a way to make informational text stick out to them. And their reading should improve from there. Anytime you're passionate about anything, you'll improve. Number 5, builds knowledge of the natural and social world. So basically, read and listen to informational text, and it gives you development in all aspects of your life, the world, and it can help you with anything in that situation. Number 6, boost vocabulary and other kinds of literacy concepts. So focus on more, as a teacher, if you focus more on vocabulary and literacy concepts, you're going to see more passion and progress in your students. And then it says basically that it kind of compares like read alouds and reading a narrative text, and just how like read alouds are going to make anything more interesting, especially like your informational texts. Yeah, anytime you read aloud, they're going to be more interested, and it's going to boost vocabulary. So that was it.
Good job, team.
All right.